Hello. A system we've relied on for 20,000 years is starting to break, and a lot of us can feel it long before we can explain it. For most of human history, survival ran on a single equation. Human labor equals human worth. If you didn't work, you didn't live. If you didn't contribute physically, you put others at risk. Labor wasn't a choice, it was how the species survived. So entire cultures built morality around work. Hard work is virtuous. Idleness is shameful. Dignity comes from contribution. For thousands of years, that wasn't ideology, it was physics. Then the machines came. First, machines replaced muscle. Then machines replaced memory. Now machines replace reasoning, coordination, even creativity. And suddenly, for the first time in history, we're approaching a threshold where most of the labor required to sustain human life no longer requires humans. Productivity keeps climbing, output keeps climbing, but the moral story about work hasn't updated. We tell people, your worth is your job. Your identity is your role. Your dignity depends on staying productive, even as jobs destabilize, automate, or evaporate. That mismatch, old story versus new reality, is where the pressure is coming from. When the story that defined dignity stops working, people don't just feel stressed, they feel betrayed. We see it in our jobs, our lives, our families, mine included. People working harder than ever and still falling behind. People feeling replaceable no matter how skilled they are. People burning out before they ever get a foothold. This isn't a personal failure. This is what happens when a civilization outgrows its operating system. And when a story collapses, something always fills the vacuum. Resentment, radicalization, oversimplified politics, scapegoating, leaders who promise certainty in exchange for freedom. Fear writes fast. If we don't create a new story on purpose, a worse one will show up by accident. We are at that turning point now. When systems start failing, the answer isn't panic, it's engineering. Over the last several months, I've been building a framework called CIRIS, not as a product, not as a pitch, but as an attempt to create the kind of infrastructure we're going to need. Here's the simplified version in 3 bullet points. CIRIS is a way of designing AI systems that, number 1, don't hide their reasoning. Everything the agent knows, decides, or references is stored in a structure you can inspect, a map you can read, not a black box you have to trust. Number 2, they don't act blindly. Before taking any action, the agent checks it against a set of principles. If the situation is unclear or outside its competence, it doesn't guess. It defers to a human. That's the rule. Uncertainty means escalation, not improvisation. Number 3, make contribution visible. There's an emerging idea inside the framework called commons credits. It's not currency. It's not scorekeeping. It's a way to record when someone strengthens the community, sharing knowledge, supporting others, maintaining infrastructure, the kind of contribution traditional systems too often ignore. This matters because we are entering a world where machines produce the good, but humans still produce meaning, culture, connection, and creativity. CIRIS is one prototype of how we can recognize that. It's open source, it's running today, and it demonstrates a crucial point. The next story isn't hypothetical, it's buildable. The pressure we're feeling across society, across generations, is the strain of a story that can't carry the weight anymore. Not because people got weaker, not because anyone failed, but because the foundational assumptions changed. When a civilization keeps running on an outdated story, the gap gets filled by fear. And fear always brings simple villains, simple promises, simple explanations, simple solutions that cost too much. But this moment also creates an opening, a chance to shift from labor-based dignity to human dignity, a chance to recognize that worth doesn't come from productivity, but from existence, a chance to build systems that honor contribution, compassion, creativity, curiosity, wisdom. The pieces already exist. Automation creates abundance. Humans create meaning. Now we need the structures that reflect that reality. Not later, now. Because the old world isn't coming back. and the next one is being shaped right now. This isn't just about AI. It's about what it means to be human in a world where labor is no longer the source of our worth. It's about building systems, technological and moral, that recognize who we are outside of productivity. CIRIS is one attempt to do that. One architecture built for transparency, accountability, and contribution. But this isn't about one framework. It's about refusing to let fear write the next story. If any of this resonates, if you felt the cracks in the old system, if your family is living this shift, if you know the story has to change, then stick around. You can learn more at ciris.ai, see the framework, read the documentation, explore what we're building. And if you're a professional in ethical fundraising, grant writing, or mission-aligned finance, we need your help. Building infrastructure for a post-labor world requires resources. We're seeking people who understand how to fund public benefit work ethically and sustainably. Not because we're selling something, because building the future takes builders, and we have a lot to build. I'm Eric Moore, the Happy Computer Guy. Let's write the new story together.